This week, our focus of our talk is on how our work is in alignment with our souls and how it allows us to create a life that matters in a world where we are just one of many. Our principle for the month is taken from our founder, Ernest Holmes' masterpiece work, the book This Thing Called You. Spirit is happy, whole, free, filled with joy, eternal in its existence, and can provide you with everlasting expansion. All your highest hopes and dreams have come from it. This week, our world lost someone whose life has truly spoken loudly. The longest ruling monarch in British history, the second longest ruling monarch in world history, Queen Elizabeth II, led a life of service. Her vocation, if you will, was not necessarily being the queen, but it was one of service to a high idea. And whether you agree with that idea or not, the contributions she made to it are undeniable. Even up until the last 2 days of her life, she performed her royal duties. I read today that the last photo of her that was ever taken was on Tuesday, 2 days before she passed, as she appointed the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss. I lived in England for 3 years as a child, and I've always been intrigued by the monarchy. But I'm honestly surprised at the depth of my reaction to the passing of the Queen. Very few of us have lived in a time of another monarch of Great Britain or the Commonwealth. And we don't have to be British subjects to find the loss of this life that was truly well lived. And isn't that what we all wish people would say about us when we depart this plane? That this was a life well lived. In his book, Let Your Life Speak, author Parker Palmer says, "Before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. Before you tell your life what truths and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody and what values you represent." These values he speaks of here are not some list of moralities that we think we should be following, but it's more, what is it that brings us truly alive? This isn't a long list of things we need to be doing or even the things that we are needed in a particular situation. And this isn't about figuring out what is needed by the world or what we think we should be doing. This is about what makes you come alive. One of my favorite authors and theologians is Howard Thurman, and he puts it this way: don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask you what makes you come alive and go and do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. The world needs people who have come alive. Parker Palmer says that vocation does not mean a goal that I pursue. It means a calling that I hear. Before I can tell my life what I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am. I must listen for the truths and the values that are at the heart of my own identity, not some arbitrary standards by which I must live, but the standards by which I cannot help but live if I am living my own authentic life. Again, not the standards by which someone has determined that I should live, but the standards by which I cannot help but live if I'm living my own authentic life. So what does this mean to listen to your life? The word vocation is a key part of this right here. The word vocation comes from the Latin vocare, or voice. Vocation is therefore about listening to the voice of spirit that lies within and allowing it to express in, through, and as us. Letting our lives speak is more about making room in our souls for the signs and the messages in and around that lift us up. When your life speaks to you, it invites the truth to be known first in you, by you, and then as you. As the soul listens for love, strength, determination, and hope that come forth from that. Vocation is not a title, it's not a role, it's not a job or an occupation. It is a quiet yes, whispered by the soul to the soul. Your life never stops speaking to you. Our task is to learn to listen for the sounds of the creation of a life that matters now more than ever. And our lives do not just speak through words. They speak through our actions, our reactions. They speak through our intuition and our instinct, through our feelings and bodily states of being. And these subtle yet profound ways of speaking are often more profound than any words we could ever utter. Now, it would be nice if these things that we hear, these feelings that we have, the intuition, our subtle nudges, our 2x4 moments, were all things that we wanted to hear. Life would be so easy if we could just follow the things we think we want. But we must not only learn to listen to the positive things, we must learn to listen to those things that we really don't want to hear. Because oftentimes, those are the things we most need to hear. Parker says, an inevitable, though often ignored dimension of the quest for wholeness is that we must embrace what we dislike or find shameful about ourselves, as well as what we are confident and proud of. Our lives are a grand experiment. And as any good scientist knows, negative results are just as important, if not more, than the positive ones. Our souls long to be heard, but our souls are often very soft-spoken, and they only speak their truth under quiet, inviting, and trustworthy conditions. Parker Palmer has a really great description of the soul and in the way that we have to be quiet with it. He says, the soul is like a wild animal, tough, resilient, savvy, self-sufficient, and yet exceedingly shy. If we want to see a wild animal, the last thing we should do is go crashing through the woods, shouting for the creature to come out. But if we are willing to walk quietly into the woods and sit silently for an hour or two at the base of a tree, the creature we are waiting for may well emerge. And out of the corner of our eye, we will catch a glimpse at the precious wildness we seek. Sitting in the silence. There is a silence that forever invites us to discover the meaning of our lives and to connect deeply with our souls. And through that, we can discover our true vocation. But we have to go within to find it. There have been many, many people throughout our world history that have found their true vocation, found what their soul is longing to express. Now remember, vocation is not just about the work we do. It's about the life we live and how our life speaks not only to the outer world, but to our inner environment as well. What is it saying to you personally? Learning to listen for that as much as learning to listen to what it's saying to the outer world are so powerful. In his book, Let Your Life Speak, Parker Palmer speaks of the actions of Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was a 40-year-old seamstress in Montgomery, Alabama. Seamstress, that was her job. Her vocation was something entirely different. And it started our world on a trajectory from which it could never go back. It was one of those quantum leap moments. On December 1st, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, Rosa Parks changed our world by doing something she had done many, many times before, but in a way that she had never done it before. As Rosa Parks stepped onto the city bus for her ride home, she sat down in the seats near the front of the bus. Seats that had never been allowed to someone like Rosa. You see, in 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama, Rosa was not treated as a full citizen with all the rights and privileges that most people enjoyed, simply and solely because of the color of her skin. When asked many years later why she sat down in the front of that bus, Rosa replied, "I sat down because I was tired." Now, I'm sure after working a full day as a seamstress, she was physically tired. But I think the tiredness that she's speaking of was a lot more than just the end of a workday. I believe what she really meant here was that she was tired of the injustice of it all. In his description of her, Parker Palmer writes, "I will no longer act on the outside in a way that contradicts the truth that I hold deeply on the inside. I will no longer act as if I were less than the whole person I know myself inwardly to be." Rosa Parks' job was that of a seamstress. Her vocation was a catalyst for change. She let her life speak loudly, clearly, and in a way that shocked a nation and brought about a fundamental change in the lives of everyone. She was a life well lived. Recently, as we've moved through this pandemic that we've been experiencing, some phrases have come up. Ones like the Great Resignation or the Great Disconnect. Now, these two things have a lot to do with how people have reacted to this pandemic. And it's a byproduct of living for more than 2 years in this global crisis that has affected us all, probably in more ways than we could ever even imagine. But I think that even more than the effects of a pandemic are at play here. People are reconsidering how they spend their time. Part of that has to do with how well they are being paid for what they do, how much job satisfaction they have in what they do, the convenience of the job, whether it's remote work or work where they are having to go to a larger location every day to fulfill. But I think there's something even more fundamental here. I believe that people are starting to ask the question, is what I'm doing, how I'm spending my energy, my time, my talents, my passions, a fit with the job that I am doing? In other words, is my outward expression in alignment with the person I know myself inwardly to be? This phenomenon in our world is showing up as burnout, disengagement, overwhelm, lack of meaning, a non-existent purpose, heightened anxiety, low productivity, stifled creativity, diminished morale, declining physical and emotional well-being, low motivation, low energy or excitement, lack of expression, potential, and performance, and most importantly, joy. Career paths often include bouncing from one company to another, from one industry to another, in a futile attempt to fix a problem that lies somewhere else. People are looking for an outward solution to an inward problem. It's easy to point fingers in lots of different directions, but the truth is, nobody is benefiting from this current state of things, from this great resignation. We all want to do better. Individuals are suffering, and so are the organizations that they support. And of course, that trickles down to the consumers. Expectations about what a job gives you beyond financial compensation were already starting to shift the decade before 2020. Recent events have dramatically accelerated the pace of that change. What was presented as a yearning 4 or 5 years ago has now become an imperative. In a recent job study, 25% of the workforce plans to look for new jobs as we emerge from this time in our world. 25% of the people are looking for something different. My guess is it's probably a lot more than that. It's just 25% are willing to make the change. There's a great book that talks about finding that thing that we've come here to be and do. It's called Sparked. Discover your unique imprint for work that makes you come alive, written by Jonathan Fields. Our ministerial intern for September, Casey Fite, is speaking about this in our Wednesday evening services this month. So if you'd like to know more about it, please be sure to watch these services on our YouTube channel. They're broadcast every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Jonathan Fields has coined the term sparketype. The take on the word archetype. Sparketype describes the type of work that is in alignment with our souls. If you'd like to find out what your sparketype is, you can take the quiz on his website, sparketype.com. When I took it, mine was a maven and a maker. Maven and maker were my two primary types. So a maven is someone who's constantly learning, and a maker is someone who likes to create things. And those of you that might know me, that fits pretty well for me. He says that the more our work aligns with our sparketype, the more likely we are to be excited and energized, to be powered by a purpose, an internal purpose that is moving through us. We are fueled by the flow, and our lives are alive with meaning, and we are performing at our best. This is what we spoke about last week when we talked about working at the zone of genius. When we are in our zone of genius, all of those things fit right in. The fueled by flow. In Gay Hendricks' book, he speaks about time being either linear, like Newtonian time, or he talks about time being fluid, Einstein time, where you can work and work and work and not even know a minute has gone by. And yet you sat there for 3 or 4 hours, engaged so fully in it that you don't even notice it. And we become alive with meaning and purpose. Our lives become fueled by what it is we are doing when we are working in our optimal zone, in our zone of genius, in our sparketype. You know, we may not have come to this world to be a Rosa Parks or a Queen Elizabeth II. We may never do anything that makes a huge, impactful change in the world in which we live. That may not be our vocation. And you know what? That's absolutely okay. We don't have to wake up every morning thinking, how am I going to change the world today? But I think we can, and we should, wake up every morning and ask, am I living my purpose today? Am I living outwardly in a way that reflects my inner truth? When we live in such a way that it does not express the inward truth of who we are living a diminished life, smaller than we could be. This is a life that is wholly unfulfilling. There's a wonderful quote that expresses this beautifully. It's one of those quotes that happens to be changed a lot, and you see it in all different kinds of memes, and often in companies a glass of wine and maybe a chocolate bar. But I found the original quote from Hunter Thompson in his book, The Proud Highway. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather a skid-in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride. When you come to the end of your life, in this time, in this place, in this plane of existence, will you look back and think, I've lived a life that mattered? I've truly lived a life that mattered. Have I let my life speak the words that it has longed to speak? And would others say this of me? This is a life well lived. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go and do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Wow, what a ride. All right, let's take this into prayer. Our form of prayer is called spiritual mind treatment. It's affirmative prayer, where we recognize the truth. We recognize that all-pervading presence. We align ourselves with it. We speak and let our lives speak from that place of truth. We give thanks and we let it go. And so if you would, turn within. Find that place within your inner being, that place of peace. that heart-centered place of connection. And it is from this place that I know that there is only one. One loving creative intelligence, one power, one dynamic, all-pervading presence. This one is eternal and everlasting. It is that infinite wisdom, that divine clarity, that passion and purpose that is moving through all of creation. Because I know there's only one, I know that I am one with it. That I am that unique incarnation of the one, endowed with that very same peace and purpose and passion that caused the Creator to bring forth life. Because I know this is true for me, I know this is true for each and every person, that we are all that perfect expression of the divine, created in its image and likeness, and endowed with all that it is. And so knowing this, I speak my word of truth. I know that each and every one of us is on our own unique path, a path of unfoldment, a path that is leading to a life well lived. That each of us has been brought here to do the work of the divine in our most unique and perfect way. For no two of us are alike, and our lives, our vocations, show up uniquely through each and every one of us. I know that each and every moment we have an opportunity to go within and to let our life speak, to listen to that still small voice, and to take action upon what is revealed to us in every single moment of our entire existence. I know that each one of us is uniquely qualified to perform that which we came here to do. For it was given to us before ever the world began. And I just give great thanks for this knowing. I'm so grateful to watch the unfoldment of this amazing experience called life as it comes into fulfillment with each and every person. I know that we are all a blessing to our entire world, to everyone we meet, and those we may never know. I am so, so grateful to feel this, to see it operating, and to know that it is divinely guided and directed at all times. And so I release this word into that law that always says yes. Always says yes. I let it be and I let it go. And so it is. Amen.